Hey y'all.
Hi, everybody. How you doing?
Good night. First day.
Good.
Having to adjust my schedule and not wake up at like 1 and 2 in the afternoon, so
Same.
slowly working on it. Thank God coffee exists.
It's also like anticlimactic to have your first day be on Zoom. It's
True.
nice, but it's also like, dang, like driving this campus is like a different feeling, or walking to class or something.
I have
I
a
know.
whole house. Almost the rest of my house are all going to campus and still going to school, so they're all like planning and making a big day out of it and carpooling. I'm kind of
Aw.
like, I'll be here.
It's cool. You get to have after school snacks with them when they come home, huh?
Hey, guys. Okay, let me just get my headset on and we'll be almost ready. Hold on a second.
How's your morning so far? Pretty good. All right, we got 9 participants. Let's see. Okay, so as you guys know, I know most of you guys are pretty familiar with the citation that we cover generally every year, but it doesn't hurt to review some things that we always go over. And also there's some new information with MLA. And if you don't have a chance, I mean, you should have a chance sometime this semester, because I'm looking at your schedules. You should have some chance to kind of review, especially the MLA, because there are some small, like, new things that you just want to be aware of. It's not dramatic changes, but it's, you know, significant enough that you want to make sure you're paying attention to it. All right. So before I start, did you guys have any questions or anything like that? No questions? You guys are all good. Okay, I'm going to get started because there's quite a lot to cover. But before I do that, I just want to double check on who signed up and who's here. So age, you know, I'm just going down the line of who I see listed here. AJ is here. Okay, great. I'm just marking him. Nilo, is he here? He is here. Tiffany is here. Great. Nicolette, you're here. Dorothy, you're here. Koa is here. Alva, she's going to be recording. Sabrina recording. Brianna, she's not here. Oh, she is here. Okay, sorry about that, Brianna. And then Aurelie, is she here? Aurelie is the only person who I do not see currently present. So, okay, I'm just going to mark her not present. Okay. All right, so I'm going to share with you the slideshow, and it's actually linked up. You can see it in the schedule, but I'm going to share that. Do you guys need that link? I don't know if you want to just follow along with me. You can certainly follow along with me as I'm going to share the screen, but I'm going to share with you the link. So just in case you need to look at it later or you want to make a reference, there's a lot of information in it. So obviously it doesn't also hurt just to run through it on your own as well. Okay, so I'm gonna share screen here, and we're gonna look at the slideshow. Okay, here we are. All right, oops, didn't want to copy that. I just want to present. Here we are. So I cut out ESA today. Normally I do cut out, I usually cover ESA, but we just don't have the time. So what I decided to do was, obviously I had to go over MLA because that's new, but I also want to cover, recover, just give you a refresher on the APA, the ASA, and Chicago style, primarily because those are going to be the most popular ones that you're going to be encountering while you're tutoring here. Okay, so here we go. So you guys already know, citations. I don't probably have to go through this anymore. But, you know, again, you know, when you're working with tutors, not tutors, but when you're working with tutees, sometimes they just really don't know why they're doing it in the first place. So I always like to talk to them about, well, why is it that you're citing, right? It's important to know that, you know, it's part of kind of academic language. It's you know, providing, you know, kind of your professors with evidence that you actually are getting information from valid sources, and that you're giving due diligence and citing other people, saying that your knowledge is based from other people's knowledge and that sort of thing. So you always want to talk about that. That's important as part of academic writing, right, at the college level. So, you know, it's that codified style, and that's why there's so many different systems, because depending on which publisher you work with, they have a different kind of expectation of what order it should look like, the kind of tone, how you might even organize it, and so forth. Primarily with students, you're going to be looking at citations specifically, right? Like in terms of what we call in-text or narrative citations, and then of course references, right? The bibliography part. So again, just quick overview. You know, over the course of many years I've been here, there's always been an update. So APA, right now we're at the 7th edition. And, you know, you don't have to memorize all this stuff. You just remember that if you go to our citation page, it has the most updated information. And that's where you should kind of check yourself when you're thinking about, oh, which edition. And also just be aware, I'm bringing this up because when you look at student assignments and syllabi or their prompts, the professor may say, I want the style, let's say APA style in X edition. And that's why some faculty, maybe they're just not updated, or maybe they prefer the 6th edition. So they're going to say, I just want to keep it at the 6th edition. Just be aware when you're looking at that, you know, right now we're at the 7th edition. So if they're using a 6th edition, we don't have the books. I mean, we may have some in we still have some old ones back in the WMC. And you might be able to look up the 6th edition online, but we don't usually practice it. So, I mean, I would just give them a quick explanation of, like, we're using the 7th. If you want the 6th, we can try to help you with that, but that's not where we are currently. But you're going to follow whatever is the guideline that the faculty is giving you. Okay, so just be aware of that. ASA currently is on the 6th edition. MLA now is at the 9th edition. That's going to be a biggie, right? See, the APA one, everyone is pretty much moved over to the 7th edition, without, maybe with some few exceptions. I don't know where English and other people who use MLA are going to be. They may use the 9th, they may be using the 8th. So just be aware, talk to them, make sure it's clear. If you don't know, if it just says MLA, it may be a good idea just to double check with the faculty. Those of you guys who are doing EMT work, you may want to double check with that, or just ask the student. You know, you may want to, I'm going to give you the information for the 9th edition, but you might want to double check with your faculty just in case they're using the 8th edition, right? So some faculty are not completely transitioned over. It just came out over the summer, so that's why. So just, you know, again, it's kind of a disclaimer to kind of protect yourself in terms of making sure that you've really told them, this is what we're doing, this is what I'm giving you, this is the resources I have. If you have any other additions, it has to be clear to me, because otherwise I can't help you. And obviously Chicago Style is at the 17th. Okay, so this is just a background information this is from last fall. It's not, doesn't mean that this is going to be the same thing that's going to happen this fall, but just it gives you kind of an overview of thinking about, well, how many students are coming in for what program and what kind of citations are you using? And as you can see with this information, right, majority number, the top two, at this point in fall last year, it was number 1, number 2 was psychology and management, and it was APA and Chicago Style. So just FYI, this is why APA is so important. It's super popular. Look how many students are coming in for APA. We also have a giant psychology program. So there's just going to be a high demand for APA, just generally speaking. Business generally uses APA, but sometimes they use Chicago. So it depends, right? You're going to have to ask. Sociology, obviously ASA, that's number 3, not number 2. I'm sorry about that. The numbering is a little bit off. Communications is APA. MLA is English. SPED is APA. Marketing business, generally APA, but sometimes Chicago. ESRM, ESA, history, Chicago, right? So those are the top requests. And so please, 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 you know, you guys, you want to make sure you're brushing up. Take a look at the quick guide, just know where things are located, just have a general sense of some of the differences. Again, remember, I'm not expecting you to memorize. In fact, I don't want you to memorize necessarily, because if you become overly confident in your memory, what happens? Anybody? What happens?
You make
miss
mistakes.
things.
That's right. And I'm telling you, I'm one of those people. I don't want to be overconfident. I think I know APA. I have a pretty good sense of it, but I'm always like, I need to double check. I need to show you. And also it's just good practice, because you want to show them where you got the source. So they're not going to say, well, the tutor said this, right? No, I'm not saying this. APA is saying this. The manual is saying this. So don't say it's not you who's telling them what to do. It's the guide that's telling you, right? Does that make sense? Always channel it towards the guide, and then you will not have problems, right? Okay. We do have quick guides. So if you guys haven't had this bookmarked, please bookmark it, and don't bookmark the actual style itself, the guide, bookmark the page. Why do you think that is? Why do you think you need a bookmark the page instead?
I would say in case any of the quick guides get updated, and so that way you can just reference all of them at one point.
Yes, yeah, and the quick guide gets updated. Sometimes I update it, and the thing is that if you only link it, let's say like to MLA, and maybe I saw a mistake, there's an error, and I corrected it, you're going to still be attached to the wrong one as opposed to the most recent one. So whatever we have in the quick guide on the website right now is the most recent one. And then if it gets updated, you don't have to worry about keep changing your bookmark for every single citation style. Does that make sense? So I recommend that. And I also recommend that when you're working with students, guide them to this web page, tell them to bookmark this web page, not the actual quick guide itself, because of those reasons, right? And also, you know what? It's helpful for them. We're in a very interdisciplinary school. It's helpful for them to see that there's other resources. And if they're taking another class that requires a different citation style, they can use it. Okay. All right. You know, I kind of said this over and over and over and over again. Don't recommend Purdue. I just do not trust it anymore. I've lost all faith in Purdue. Once in a while, maybe, but you have to double check every single time. Even their examples are wrong sometimes. You know, and you can tell that they used it. But generally, what happens is they'll go to the web page and they'll use the citation machine that you can see here. Really, really bad. Totally unreliable. Has nothing to do with Purdue. They got money from them to generate, you know, to keep this website going, and it's just I just think it's a mistake. So anyway, that's what it is. Don't trust it. Don't guide them there. If they do use it, they got to double check. Do not ask, do not tell them, or avoid using the citation machine. I can almost always see when they're using citation machine or they're using the Google automatically generated citation machine. You know how they do that when you're looking at sources? You can just ask them, so well, how did you get this? Because of, you know how you know, right? Because they're different for each one, right? Like, you know, and it's not, or there's a certain pattern in which they're doing it and it's wrong. So you can see that there's a cut and paste pattern, or there's kind of an irregularity. Usually they use a generator, or they just cut and pasted whatever they saw. They thought it was correct. And you just have to walk through that process and show them how to do it right. Okay. I am going to move on to just, so again, you know, you kind of heard me talk about like how, when we talk about lecture, you know, not faculty, but tutors, you know, that you guys have different names for each tutor. And I did want to kind of have us as well talking about things in a uniform way, right? So what that means is that there are terminology and language to talk about citations and writing. So one of the things that I want you to talk about is that I know you guys talk about it a lot as in-text citation, but in-text citation actually refers to two types, either parenthetical or narrative, right? And you should be more specific than that. So if they're going to do in-text citations, well, there's two ways you can do it. Where is this? I'm sorry. That was my alarm. Narrative citations when the authors are embedded in the actual language, right, of the essay itself. So you can see that, right? The authors are embedded in it. According to Cantor and Michelle, blah, 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 right? But when you put it in a parenthetical, it comes at the end, right? After you paraphrase something. And that is the parenthetical citation. So just be aware of those terms, be consistent in using those terms. You can still refer to in-text citation, but in-text kind of refers to either one of these. So the students don't know what the difference is. And when you're looking at it, don't just look at the parenthetical, because I've noticed that some of you guys just look at the parenthetical. You cannot just do that. You have to look at how they're integrating it also into the paragraph. And that also you can vary it, right? Because nobody wants to just read a paragraph with just parentheticals. And you can notice even in this example that they've kind of blended the two, right? And it just reads more nicely. It's much more interesting and much more engaging, right? So if you see students just do the parenthetical all the time, you might say, you can mix it up a little bit, right? You could to make it a little bit more interesting to read. Okay, so this is across the board with APA, ASA, and ESA. Paraphrasing is preferred unless the faculty says specifically you can quote. Most of the time, I would tell you that that is not the thing that they do, right? Parenthetical, if you're working with APA, ASA, ESA, and they're quoting all the time, you're going to have to ask them, is this something that your professor wants you to do? Are you sure they don't want you to paraphrase? Because generally speaking, they're going to want you to paraphrase. This is just the style. Okay. And when you're paraphrasing, that means that you can quote occasionally if you really want to directly use that term in some way specifically, and there's no other way to go around it, or it's a very technical explanation. But students usually use it as a shortcut because they don't want to put it in their own words. And that's hard. It's hard for them. So part of your job is to help them if they are doing a lot of quotes, especially in APA style. You have to tell them, hey, that's not really kind of the style. You can't do that. Let me help you. Let's work on paraphrasing it. What are you trying to say with that? And put in your own words. Okay. And this is also true. ESA does not quote most of the time, really, really rarely. And you're going to find some of you guys, if you're working with ESA 100, they're going to demand that you don't use quotes at all. They're introducing the students to that style. Okay. Any questions about that? All right. Just a quick note too, APA, ASA guidelines, no reference to article or journal reference in the narrative. So students, they're basically using kind of like, maybe, I don't know, the memory of using MLA style, and they integrate it into APA. But in APA, you don't say, according to Maxwell's article, this title, you don't do that, right? What do you do in APA? You just, if you're going to put it in a parenthetical, you're just going to cite the last name and year. That's it, right? You should not see a title of a book or an article at all. Does that make sense? Okay. The only reason why you see Joseph Maxwell actually written out here is probably because there's someone else named Maxwell, another author, and they had to make a distinction. They almost never in APA style do you put the first name and last name written out. Only you do that in MLA, okay? When you first identify the author. So usually APA is very much last name and year, that's it. ASA 2 and ESA. Okay, so other thing I wanted to do is cite author every time they're using the source, even if it's in the same paragraph. Students ask that all the time. I'm citing the source over and over again because I only have one source. Do I have to cite them every single time? Yes, you do. You could vary it a little bit, maybe put it in the narrative instead of just doing it in a parenthetical, right? You could go, but you do have to cite it because it's not your idea. That sentence does not have your idea. You're not, unless it's very clear that the whole thing is, you know, generally making a reference to the author. If it's not really clearly stated, then you have to cite it. Unless, of course, the faculty says, oh, I already know, and you don't have to do it. But again, that's an exception to the rule. Most people and most faculty are going to ask them to cite it all the time, right? So that shouldn't be the default. Okay. All right. Next on list of all the sources that's cited. That's at the end, right? We have different names, right? So this is cited in, you guys can guess, what style is this?
Is this APA?
Yeah, right, APA. Well, is that APA? Do I even know? I think it should be APA, yes. Although it doesn't look like it's done correctly, but it could be like, you know, some books and publishers, they have a slight variation of the style. Because the reason why I'm questioning it is because the 34 is not italicized, right? So it's slightly different style. But anyway, but it's a variation of APA for sure. So anyway, so as far as references, right? APA uses references at the end. Works cited, who calls it works cited? What style?
MLA.
MLA, literature cited.
That's ESA, right?
Yes, Tiffany, you got it. Got it. References, who uses references?
APA.
APA, who else?
ASA?
Yes, who else? Or what else? What other citation style uses references? One more. You guys almost got it.
Chicago?
Chicago, which version?
Is it author date?
Yes, because it can't be notes bib because
No way.
bib is bibliography, right? Yeah, you guys are brilliant. Yes, absolutely. Right, it's author date. It can't be notes bib, right? Because it's bibliography, notes bib, right? Bibliography is only used by Chicago style, notes bib style. All right. So you got it. That's how you do it. So just watch out for that too. Like students don't know, they don't know what to call it. Make sure that it's calling it correctly. All right, so we're now like moving on to 7th edition. Yay. All right, you guys already know this. I know you know it, but I'm just going to go through it again. Again, what's unique about in-text citations with APA, the parenthetical or the narrative, usually no page references because you're not quoting. Remember, you're not quoting, you're paraphrasing. If you're going to do a parenthetical citation, it's last name and year. Notice that it's last name, year with a comma in between. And then if there's if there's two authors, there's an ampersand in between. This is what's unique about APA, right? Again, new to 7th edition was that if you have 3 or more authors, it used to be, you guys, I don't know if you remember this, those of you who've done this in the past, right? It used to be that you had to write them out first and then afterwards you said et al. But now in the 7th edition, you don't write them out at all. You have to just do et al. From the very beginning. Does that make sense? So 3 or more authors, you cite only the first author. This is the 6th edition. This is a long time ago. You used to have to write it out first, but now you just do et al. 2015. Okay.
I thought that if there were 4 authors, like it has here, then you don't write them out. But if there are 3, if there's exactly 3, then you write them out. Recently, but maybe I was wrong. Oops.
Yeah, no. So you write them out with 3, and then you do et al. Afterwards. I believe, but it's 3 or more. If I believe, but I could have been wrong. Like I said, I have to go back and check it out. As my memory might, but it doesn't really matter anymore because it's just 2, right? That you use, and then over 2, that's 3 or more, you just cite the first author et al. But you're right, it's something like that. It's like 3 or 4. It could have been 4. I don't know. It's possible. This example had 4 authors. Okay. Semicolon in between if you have multiple authors or multiple works of the same author. That's, you guys already know that. Okay. All right. So reference list, the basics, right? So you guys know, the way APA works is last name, first initial, and then you always use ampersand, last name, first initial, and then the year is in parenthetical. You can see, again, something kind of unique to APA, right, is that titles, this is the title of a book, right? Titles of the book here, they're all lowercase, right? This is kind of unique to APA. MLA doesn't do that, right? So just pay attention. You don't have to memorize all this stuff again. Just know that there's something different about, like, the reference, when you're citing a source, right? Especially with titles. It's always lowercase for APA. And then you can see the publisher here. The other thing, I think I probably had a note here about what's different with APA 7th edition is that there's no location. So it used to be that you have to write like New York, for the publisher, but they don't care about the publisher's location anymore. And I think part of that has to do with the fact that a lot of it has gone digital and it's no longer necessarily just printed at this one place. So I think this is kind of an obsolete point. So a lot of people are kind of dropping that location of publishers, and APA is one of them. Okay. All right. So here we are moving on to journal articles. So again, similar to the book, right? Last name, first initials, excuse me, and ampersand, right? So same thing. Notice here the title. This is the title of a journal article. Also lowercase again. You only capitalize the first letter of the first word. Or if you have like a subheading here, like this, a meta-analysis, right after the colon, you have to capitalize the first letter of the first word or letter, right after the colon, right? But this is the journal title, right? Journal title is capitalized, italicized. Again, here, this is APA, comma. This is a big thing because in ASA, you don't do a comma. Here's the volume number, issue number. Volume number is always italicized, parentheses, for issue number, comma, page reference, right? So again, something unique to APA, you italicize the volume. They still do it, right? And that's why when I was looking at that other version of it that you said was APA, I was like, that's a variation. That's kind of different. They didn't italicize it. I don't know. I grabbed it from a book, I think. So sometimes publishers go off a little bit from the citation style. But yeah, it certainly does look like APA. Anyway, but this is the way traditionally it's supposed to be cited, at least by the manual. Okay. So another thing to look out for, and by the way, this is going to be important for you because keeping track of how DOI is being cited is going to be, I don't say it's a headache, but you're going to have to pay attention because ASA does it slightly differently from APA, and now MLA is going to do it differently. So you're going to have to pay attention. So this is the 7th edition, DOI. The 6th edition used to just have DOI colon and then the numbers. 7th edition makes you write it out, https doi.org. Okay, do you see this? So this is going to be very important for you to know because this is what you do also for Chicago style. And actually, you're going to do this also for MLA. MLA has moved on and they decided to do it in a different way. So this is going to be a common thing, but not for ASA. Okay, this is just one of those weird things. So my suggestion would be just pay attention to DOI. DOI might be different for different citation styles. Make sure you're looking at the handout and looking at it carefully, or the book carefully when you're looking at DOI, okay? Okay, so just an example, when you're looking at an article, I actually, when I see that DOI is off, I don't automatically just correct them. I tell them, well, or if, by the way, if I see students and they're citing articles, look, I know majority of those articles are collected from online. You guys don't look at print articles anymore. I used to look at print articles when I was a youngin', when I was an undergraduate, but you guys don't do that. Everything is digitized. So very likely it has a DOI or HTTPS address, right? So when I see that and they're not citing the address, or they have a URL, but it's a journal article, I would suggest very highly that you ask them, hey, let's look at the original source just in case it doesn't have a DOI. If it's an old article, it probably won't have it, but if it's a more recent article from the last 5 years or so, it should have a DOI, especially scientific articles. Anything in the sciences, very likely to have a DOI. If it's in the humanities, maybe, maybe not, okay? So let's look at this, right? So immigration, race, and riot, right? This is an American Sociological Review. Does it have a DOI? Yes, Koa, you're absolutely right. It has a DOI, it's right there. But most students ignore that and they give this. Do you see what I'm saying? They're giving the JSTOR stable address. They should not be doing that. They should be using the DOI, okay? So you guys make sure when you see it and they're using maybe just an URL, or they just cut and paste from the top, right? And the URL is wrong because it says something like database from CI or something like that. You cannot use that. You have to use the universal code, right, with the DOI. Okay. So this is just another point, no retrieve from, lead for URL. So if you do have a URL, like this is CDC and you're citing the CDC, notice it doesn't say retrieved from, unless the faculty really specifically wants that. But most people don't do it anymore. It's just dropping it, not even an access state, okay? Drop it and just have a link, okay? And something, again, unique to APA, no dot after the URL or DOI. No period at the very end of this. This is not an error. I did not make this as a mistake. This is the way it is with APA style. Okay, all right. So just a summary of a couple of different things. Something to look out for. I always pay attention to like spacing. I know you guys, spacing is not a big deal for you, but it is for APA. One space after a period. So when you see sentences, it should only have one space after a period. It should not have double spacing. Just a note. Also, gender neutral pronouns, they prefer they rather than he or she. Labeling people, to use specific descriptive phrases. Running head, no longer needed unless specifically faculty want it. Okay, so student papers, because you guys are not publishing, don't require a running head for APA. Okay. All right, so we're moving on. Any questions about the APA? You guys are good? I mean, you should all be fairly familiar with it. I mean, you may not remember everything, but you should be familiar. Okay, so we're moving on to ASA. So I like following APA with ASA because it's kind of similar and kind of different, right? So here you have parenthetical citation. What's different between APA and ASA here? What's different?
The colon.
Yeah. So if it didn't, okay, so if you're an ASA and you're not citing a page, right? Let's say this is a page reference. If you're just paraphrasing, what would it look like in the parenthetical? What does it look like?
It doesn't have a page reference, right?
Yeah, if it didn't have one, what would it look like? How would you rewrite this without the page reference?
Wouldn't it be the last name, comma, year, and then close parentheses?
No comma. Brianna, good try. That's APA, but that's what. Yeah. But I wanted to emphasize that. I'm glad you brought that up though, right? So it's good. Sometimes we make mistakes, but the mistake is a good one because it makes me highlight the point, right? That with ASA, no comma between last name and year, okay? This is, again, not an error. This is the way they cite things. They drop the comma. So APA has commas in the parentheticals, ASA does not, okay? So here we have 3 authors, same thing. If you have 3 authors, well, this is a little bit different, right? So ASA with 3 authors, write out all authors' name first time and subsequent citations used at all. So in this case, you're gonna have like 3 authors here and notice no ampersand, right? Lee, Grossman, and Carey, 2004. And then the next time you cite them in a parenthetical, it's Lee et al, right? And notice no comma. Okay. And then if it's 4 or more, use et al. So this makes me think about like maybe this is what APA used to do, Kiana. It's confusing.
Yeah, it makes me think that too. Yeah.
It's confusing, isn't it? Right? Keeping track of all these, right? I wish they were all going to do the same thing, really. But anyway, so this is what it is. So again, I don't expect you to memorize, but just be aware that there is a difference. So you would double check and make sure your antenna is on high alert, right? With that, especially when there's multiple authors and you're doing it in a certain style. You might not keep track of every single one, but just remember that with ASA, you don't do that. Okay, I'm gonna speed up a little bit because of time. You guys should be familiar with the way that ASA uses references. It looks a lot more like MLA, right? You actually write out the author's first name, not initial, right? There's no parentheticals around the number. And notice with the title, like unlike APA, they, uppercase the first letter or first word, right? Not impossible subjects, right? And here they've kept the location of the publisher, right? So who knows? Maybe the next version of ASA, they're going to drop it. They keep changing, right? Who knows? But right now, this is the way they do it. So we're just going to follow whatever they do, right? Just go use a manual or use a book and just follow it. Okay. Any questions about this? All right. By the way, I've been told by some sociology professors, this is a very common thing to be citing a chapter in a book. So just be aware that this is how you do it, that you have authors, you have that chapter in quotes, right? Think of it like an article. Like instead of an article, this is a chapter in a book, but that's how you would do it. Put in quotes, right? Page, it's followed by page references. And here's the book, Cultivating Food Justice, comma, and then edited by, and then they have initials for the editors, but first initials and last name. And then you have location, a publisher, and then the press. Okay. So just follow the sequence, that's all. But this is a very common thing for them to ask. The other thing I was going to say is that most often students don't know how to cite a chapter in a book that has been digitized. And just because it's digitized, like in the sense that it's been copied by the faculty and put up into Canvas, you would cite it exactly the same. You don't have to say, this is an electronic copy put onto Canvas, all right? Because it's actually, the original source is from a book. Does that make sense? Right? Sometimes I encounter that question a lot because they don't know, and the whole point of the reference, right, is that so other people could actually find this, right? If they found the book, they can find that chapter, right? They're not going to be able to go to Canvas and find it. All right. Journal article, again, just follow the sequence here, but I just want to highlight this one thing. DOI, look at DOI. It's very different from APA, okay? It's not going to be APA https://doi.org, right? It's just DOI : space, and then the numbers, and then a period at the end, right? Remember these like spacing and periods and stuff all make a difference. All right. All right. Okay, so you guys know with ASA and Chicago style, you drop the numbers, right? Remember how you do this, right? So this is the correct way to cite it, but this is the incorrect way. So you don't write out 132 to 148, you drop the 1 that's repeated. Same thing here, 1102, 1111, you drop the 1 and 1 because you're repeating it. But if it's within the same, I guess, like 64 and 65, right? You don't drop that. Apparently. Oh, you do drop it. Huh. You only drop the 3, not the 6. There you go. So I don't know. This is a general rule of thumb. They don't really explain it very well. I don't know really how else to explain it, except there's as long as it makes sense. There's certain ones, like if it's under 10, I think you have to write it all out. You don't drop it because it looks wrong. Okay. And this is going to be important for you to remember, not only because it applies to ASA and Chicago style, but guess what? MLA is adopting this too. MLA is doing the same thing. I know, Kiana. Kiana's like, what? Yes, they're going to do the same thing. So this is one of the big changes. all right, if you have big changes. All right, so we have very little time. I want you guys to do a quick quiz. Have you done this before? You probably don't remember. So let me stop sharing for a second here. Oh, shoot, did I lose it? I stopped sharing and look, I lost it already. Let me go back to that training days slideshow. You guys, I want you to do that quick quiz. Open. It closed my thing. Sorry about that. Do you want me to send you the link? You guys need a link to it, to the quiz?
Yes, please.
Okay, 1 second. Let me get to it. You can do it. I know. You might remember it because it's the same quiz that I gave you a long time ago. But it will help you remember how to do it. There you go. And for your information, I did it myself. Okay, I also did it myself, and yeah, it's fun. It should tell you automatically if you got it correct or not. Okay, just put your email at the top and then you'll know. Give me a thumbs up when you're done, if you're finished with it. I'm sending it to myself again. I'm just taking the quiz. I might get it wrong. Who knows? Let me see. I hope I got it right. Let's see what happens. Anyone done? Anyone finished?
I just finished.
And how did you do?
Well, the first one, I got them wrong. I literally chose the opposite answers of what it should have been. And I must have like in my head had it going from like the previous edition or something, or whatever I had in my head. I'm like, that's so frustrating.
That's okay. It's okay, but you're learning, right? That's good. It's good. So this one, well, we'll talk about this. I'm gonna wait until everyone's done. I mean, I can run through it, but it's good exercise to run through it primarily because those are the two where you're gonna get mixed up, right? Because they're so close. right? So that's why I gave you this quiz, because it really helps you kind of pay attention to the differences between them. Anyone else finish it? You guys are all still working on it?
Oh, I finished.
Oh, how did you do, Tiffany?
Where is it? Here it is. So the first one I missed it because I only clicked one or instead of the
Right.
other
Oh,
one.
you forgot the other one.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But I got the citation right.
Okay, good.
And then I got the first one about ASA. I got that one right also, but then I got the citation wrong.
Oh, you mean the last one, number 4?
Yeah, number 4.
Yeah. Yeah, that's tricky, right? That one's tricky, but now you know. Okay. Anyone still working on it? You're all still working on it? Nicolette, you still working on it?
No, I got 3 out of 4 as well. I got the last one wrong.
Oh, but did you find out what you're supposed to get correct?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, good. All right. So I am going to move on because of time, but I will say I got it all right. I should. But it's stressful. I'm sitting here going, gosh, I could get this wrong. But well, anyways, because I forgot. I've done this a while back. But anyway, but it is not easy. Even, I had to hesitate. I'm like, okay, what's, there's a subtle difference. So congrats to you that you guys went through it. And if you got it wrong, as I always say to everybody, it's okay, because you learned from your mistakes. And one of the things is that there is very similar, very close similarities. The first one, I'll screen share to you guys really quickly, because I do have to go back to the presentation. The first one I just want to share. This is my score. There's 2 correct answers. And the point here is just to show you both the narrative as well as the parenthetical citation, right? And the key here is that, hey, look, there's 3 authors. So what happens with APA when you have 3 authors? Should you be citing all 3 authors in the in-text citation? No, remember we just talked about that. This is new for 7th edition, right? So you're gonna use et al. And like this. So both of them, these are the only ways you can do it. These are old ways, right? This is the 6th edition. So that was one thing. The other one here, it's references, right, for APA style. How do you do that? And so this one was also a test of you remembering how the DOI is organized, right? So remember, this is definitely a no, right? So no DOI, you have to write it out, right? But the other thing is that, oh my gosh, there's 2 that look exactly the same. Well, almost exactly the same. Which one is most likely, A or D? In APA. What did you learn about APA when you're citing the journal article? Do you capitalize them?
Oh,
No.
you don't.
Yeah, you don't. It's lowercase, right? So this is the correct one. And not only that, look, this one is not followed by a period, and this one is, right? There's no periods after the DOI. Yay! So that's another tip. If you remember that, I just always remember the period. So it's like, this has to be the right one. All right. Okay. So here's this other one, ASA. Now we're moving on to ASA. So, it's a little bit different. So how do you cite ASA both in parenthetical and narrative, right? So this one, because there's 2 authors, how many authors is there? 2 authors. How do you do that? Well, this one has an ampersand. It's totally not, right? This is APA, right? It has to be and there's a page reference, and there's no comma. So this is a correct APA style, ASA style, sorry. And this is the ASA style when you're doing the narrative. Okay. And besides, it's not et al. There's only 2, right? You couldn't do that. And you're not supposed to cite the first name of the author either in the ASA. So there's a lot wrong with this one. So you should have not selected that one. Okay. The last one here is DOI, right? So again, I'm testing you for your memory of DOI, which one is the correct version. And the correct version should be this one, although I think I made an error because there should be a space right here. If I was really being strict about it, it should be that colon should have a space. I just noticed it. So I'm like, that bothers me. That's spacing. But outside of that, it's correct, right? There's a period on that. It's capitalized, okay? DeLuca and Kathleen Corrigan. Because the other ones here, it's with initials, right? That's APA style, right? You got it? All righty. So that is
Question,
it.
sorry,
Yeah,
does the page
yeah.
number not get dropped for the second, since it's like 107?
Oh, you could have a, you can, it's not totally unheard of to quote a term, maybe a common term, so you can quote it. You should be paraphrasing most of the time.
No, what I mean is,
Uh-huh.
the page
Oh,
number.
no, because it's under 10.
Okay.
So it's like 100 to 107,
Okay.
right? So it's not 112.
Okay.
Or, right? Okay, so I'm gonna go back to, whoa, let me stop sharing here. I'm gonna go back to the slideshow. But thanks for playing that quiz with me. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna screen share this slideshow again. And because of time, I'm gonna run through the MLA a little bit. We don't have time for the notes bid. But needless to say, you guys know that you really do need to go through the notes bid, right? I mean, you are destined to have someone ask you questions about it. As a tutor, it's going to happen. So please, please, please take some time to at least run through the slideshow and just run through the handout and know. But anyway, you're at the 9th edition. So what does that mean? One, well, this is like standard, right? But one of the things, you know, I don't think this is new, but no comma between last name and page references, right? And then no pages, just no PP, right? Just generally speaking. So here's something that's new for 9th edition though. Oops, drop the repeated numbers, right? We just talked about that. So Sigmund, 168 to 99. So that's really 168 to 199. You're dropping the 1, right? So just be aware that there's that new thing. For the 8th edition, 3 or more authors, cite only the first author, use et al. Throughout. So that sounds a lot like APA, right? So here's an example, Piper et al. 364, right? And notice again, no comma, okay? Semicolon to separate more than 2 authors or multiple works. Again, this is, I think, nothing new, but this is what it would look like, okay? Oops. What did they run through so quickly? Okay. All right. Here, just as a point of punctuation, generally no comma between last name and page references unless you have multiple works by that author. So Shelley, 194, and then maybe specifically that work of art if you have multiple works of art by Shelley. So Shelley, Frankenstein, 20. So again, you see at the very end, there's no comma in between that work and the page reference, but there is a comma between the author and the title. And same here too, when you have like the author and let's say not the title, but maybe lines, a paragraph or chapter or whatever, other little parts, okay? Citing in prose versus using parenthetical citations. You already know this, most of you who are familiar with MLA, but in MLA, you can, when you first cite the author, have the first name cited and then the last name. You do that when you first cite the author, and then you drop it and just call Menand, right? But when you're integrating it in the narrative, say Louise Menand notes that we have, quote, very little hard information, unquote, and then you don't have page reference, it's just the number, okay? That's the narrative. If you're gonna do it as a parenthetical, notice what's happening here. Here's the quote, last name, and page reference. Okay. No comma. Okay, here's something new for online journals with DOI. Just like APA, it's going to require you to use https://doi.org and then the numbers. So I don't know, what did you guys do in the past? Do you remember? Kiana, do you remember? What do you guys do? Can't remember.
Honestly, I haven't used MLA in so long. I don't remember.
Is there an English major here? Tiffany, do you remember, how did you guys cite DOIs before?
I don't even think we were putting them.
Oh, okay. So maybe there you go. So this is a new thing then. Maybe they want you to put DOIs now because everyone else is doing it. So in any case, DOI, they want you to put DOIs in there and they want you to use this address. So this is an example of citing, right? And it's coming from a specific database, Project Muse, comma, and then here's a, https://doi.org/ and then the number, period. Okay. Notice here, I just want to put a note because we have asked you guys to drop the PP in the parenthetical citation. Notice here in the references, you do put the page numbers, PP, in here. Just a side note, okay? So you don't drop it completely. You do it in the references. You just don't do it in the parenthetical, okay? The other thing that's kind of interesting that I noted is that you drop the HTTP in the parenthetical, in the reference. So look at this, right? Here's a New York Times article, How to Age Well, that's cited. The date when it came out, comma, and then just www.newyorktimes.com. All right. So no HTTP. There's just the www. Okay. Again, it's all in the handbook, but the handbook doesn't put it in big letters or something like that. This is new and this is what we're doing. It just has it there and you're just supposed to pay attention to it. But I just think it's helpful just to know or pay attention to that change. All right. Ooh, what's the time? Okay. So, one other thing, just like APA, one space after period. So when you're seeing sentences, paragraphs, and things like that, just one space after the period, right? When you're writing essays and stuff like that. The other thing that I thought was interesting that's different is works cited. It's its own page. So when you see an essay, and you know how some students write at the end of the essay, if it's halfway in the paper, they'll have works cited. You want that to be a whole new page with its separate works cited page. Do you see what I'm saying? So just make sure that the works cited goes at the top of the page and a new page, right? It should be on its own page. And the other thing that's nice about the new MLA is that it has lots of examples in the back of how to cite stuff. So I definitely think it's easier to use. It's not bad at all. So quick quiz, you guys, MLA. Okay, which one is correct for in-text citation? Or I guess really narrative citation? A or B?
B.
I'm sorry, which one? Which one's correct?
B.
Ta-da! Yes, you're right. It is B because we had just talked about it, right? 3 or more authors, it's going to be et al. Right? Excellent. Another quick quiz. Which one is the correct way to cite a work cited in MLA style? A or B?
It's B again, right?
Yes. Excellent. Good job, you guys. You're paying attention. All right. So I am going to end this presentation. However, if you do look at the slideshow again, if you have time, just a note, it does, just run through the thing, but I have this quick comparison reference that I just think it's helpful. for myself personally, when you compare it across the board, like what's different between all of them, like here, multiple authors, when do you cite them all? And when do you use at all? So if you wanted to take a screenshot and keep it as your like favorite little thing that you want to have for citations, you're welcome to do it. But it's just there as information for you to look at later on. Okay, quick comparisons. Okay, any questions before I end this? All right, I know it's a lot to remember. It's super, I mean, this is why you guys are the best, really. Oops. You guys are awesome, really. It's so hard. How many people have to do this kind of thing? This is, even faculty find it challenging to cite across multiple citation styles. And we're asking you to do it. And all I'm asking you to do is just try your best, pay attention to detail, look at that book, and refer to the handout. And going through this just helps you just be aware of the various differences between the citation styles. All right, it's been a pleasure. I know you guys have to go to the next workshop. So see you guys later. Bye.
Thank you.
Professor,
Thank you.
Bye.
you have time for, oh, out of here. Bye, Aurelie.
Bye.